Hello again. I hope your Thanksgiving was a wonderful one and you ate well and lived well and you were just happy, right? I'm Bernie Miklasz. I was happy yesterday. Had a good time and it was nice to not do too much for once, even stop talking for a while, which is pretty rare for me. But I'm back on this Friday. I don't know how many people are in the mood to watch videos, but I'm going to put one up anyway for you here on the Bernie Miklasz Show on YouTube. Thank you for subscribing. Thanks for growing our subscriber list to just about 7,000. And we're doing well. And I keep telling you, I'm really happy to provide these for you. And I know even sometimes you disagree with what I have to say, really disagree or slightly disagree, and you weigh in with your opinions. I love it because it gives me stuff to think about, and we have more to talk about that way. The whole point is to give you something to think about that you can react to, respond to, and suggest a better way to say things or go about things, and take issue with some of the things I say. Love that stuff. I don't know what to tell you. Opinions are fun. I think opinions are fun even if you disagree with them. I'll shut up now about that stuff. Here's what I want to talk about today. I've picked up on something here lately, and I'm trying to think of the best way to put it, because the thing I don't want to do is to get all haughty and nasty. I tend to sometimes get so passionate about an opinion that it puts me in a way where I'm not too happy with myself, because listen, it's kind of like, well, there's no reason for me to talk down to somebody or to act like I'm superior, because I'm obviously not. But I've always been very emotional, and even though I have this analytical mind and just love analytics, and me, I always talk about it. Man, when I have an opinion, I'm going to research it to see if the facts measure up to it. If this opinion is based on facts. If not, then I have to rethink my position, because I'm just in effect winging it if you don't base it on facts. And so I talk about that a lot, to the point of probably annoying you. And I don't mean to do it that way, but I do strongly believe you have to have facts on your side, or I don't necessarily take some of what anybody says. If they don't base it on facts, I don't have a reason to like really embrace their opinion in terms of whether it's right. That's the way my brain functions. If I'm going to do the work to make sure that my opinions are fact based, then I don't mind someone telling me I'm wrong, or I don't get it, or I'm out of it, I'm crazy, whatever. I don't mind that. But that kind of opinion, counter opinion to mine, just isn't worth much if it's not based on facts. I mean, it's just as simple as that. So I'm always going to be that way, always. But I don't want to be snotty about it. And sometimes I do that, and that's going to be a New Year's resolution, even though we're not there yet. I'm going to try to be a little more well mannered. Now, if I want to go on a rant about something, I'll go on a rant, but I just don't want to take it out on people that come here all the time and are kind enough to subscribe and to give their opinions. Although a few of you, and you know who you are, a few of you, I'm just kidding. All right, here's what I'm going to talk about today. I've picked up on something lately, really throughout this whole off season, where the Cardinals rolled out the day after the season ended, and was kind of like, all right, here's what we're going to do. 2025 is going to be something different. We have got to get our minor league, our player development system back up to speed. We have got to reinvest in it. We've got to put a lot of money into it. We have got to make sure the infrastructure is there. We have enough. We have the latest technology. We have all the tools that our prospects need to get better and to be ready, more prepared for the majors. We need more people to teach them. We need smart people to teach them. We need just a really smart program in place that'll lead to consistency, because everyone's going to be taught, and there's certain things we believe in, and we're going to teach them and teach them and teach them. And over time, we will establish the fact that this is what we need to do to develop winning players and to redevelop winning baseball. and I hate to use the Cardinal way, because the Cardinal way was once upon a time was all that was about was how to teach baseball. And it's like, well, this is how we do this baseball wise. This is what we do in terms of cutting off throws. I mean, just it's a baseball thing, but some people along the way turned it into this kind of smug superiority thing. And I one of the problems I had with Mike Matheny is that he took the Cardinal way in terms of his version of it and turned it into kind of like this statement on morality. Like, in other words, oh, well, the Cardinals are morally superior. He never said it in those terms, but that was his message. And that's why, like, I really actually got to the point where I couldn't even stand to say Cardinal way. But there was a Cardinal way, and the Cardinal way was George Kissel, and the Cardinal way was all about smart baseball. It was all about teaching baseball, smart people teaching baseball, making players smarter, right on down the line through generations. The Cardinals, and not just Kissel, they've had some great instructors through the decades. So the Cardinals want to get back to a new Cardinal way, although, gosh, it would be nice to have a different title for it. They just got to get smarter, and they got to invest in their minor league and player development system. And that's the thing that made this franchise great for a long, long time. It's a franchise of Branch Rickey, who basically invented the minor leagues, right? And they've gotten away from it. And I love the fact, I do. I love the fact that they finally have gotten to the point, the Cardinals did, where they realize, we have to call kind of a timeout here, because we got to get this thing back on track at the foundational level. The reasons why we were for such a long period of time a winning franchise, and we had an advantage in analytics, we had an advantage in player development and how to identify talent, and we had an advantage in teaching our younger players and our minor league players and making them as good as they can be by the time they reach the major leagues. And we've all let that slide, and the Cardinals have kind of stayed middle of the road. They went through that incredible phase from 2000 through 2015. It was incredible. I've gone over the numbers before. I don't need to do it again, but basically, they've 16 seasons. They appeared in more postseason games than anybody in the majors. They had more postseason home games than anybody in the majors. They were tied with the Yankees for the most postseason wins over those 16 years, and they had the most postseason wins in the National League. And the Cardinals won more postseason games at home than any team in the majors over a 16-year period. And things started to slide. Well, we know why they started to slide. Jeff Luhnow and the analytics and the heavy emphasis on newer ways to get a competitive edge, smarter ways to get a competitive edge. That was thriving once Bill DeWitt hired Jeff Luhnow. It continued to thrive. They were already doing well. But when some of the players got old, some of the players retired or were traded or whatever, the Cardinals had a system in place that would just keep funneling talent, smart players too, to the major leagues, and so they could sustain their success. Well, when Jeff Luhnow left, and by the way, he left for a general manager's job. Nobody did anything wrong here. He left for a general manager's job. And the problem is he took too many of his guys with him. The Cardinals had the best analytics department, arguably. If not, they were tied for first for a long, long period of time. But when Jeff Luhnow left, he also took people with him. And by one high-ranking member of the Cardinals organization's count, the Cardinals not just lost Luhnow, but in the 2 or 3 years after that, they lost like either somewhere between 8 or 10 people that were on the staff that he brought in, who were very, very, very sharp analytical minds. Some of these people have gone on to run major league franchises and have had success. So this stuff matters. And that's why I was talking about it with my friend Matt Pauly on KMOX, the Gas House Gang that we recorded earlier Friday. And we both don't really understand when Cardinals fans, and I'm just saying, frankly, I don't understand it. And here's why. I'm not trying to be a snot. I just don't understand it. We say, well, I'm tired of all these analytics. The Cardinals are trying to, the way they're trying to develop these players and teach players, it's all about analytics. They don't know how to teach, blah, blah, blah. Listen, I think there's merit to saying they don't know how to teach, because I've raised hell about that myself, that they haven't had good teachers, but that's part of the whole big picture. They just haven't been as smart. But analytics have not been the problem. When the Cardinals had a huge advantage over most major league teams in analytics and enhanced information and stuff that would give you competitive edges, And also, analytics are used for identifying talent in terms of traits of a talent, where you see a pitcher with a certain pitch, you say, well, he's been pitching for Detroit, and boy, he's got a good slider. He doesn't throw it enough. We get him here. Let's sign this guy, or let's get him at a cheap price in a trade, and we'll get him to throw pitches that he needs to throw more often. It can be something that simple, but analytics identify all that stuff. And it goes deeper than that. But analytics are actually healthy. You have to have the human element too. And as I've said many times, it's possible to have both things. There's too many of us that look at it, it's like analytics are bad. They're not bad. Or they say, well, the old school stuff, that's when, players were taught to play the game a certain way and they weren't as worried about the numbers. There's an element of truth in that. But again, I think it's exaggerated because people want to reduce analytics to the level of all evil, and it's just not. And it's just kind of silly because the Cardinals sustained success from 2002 through 2015 during the Jeff Lunell impact era. A lot of it had to do with a guy named Albert Pujols. A lot of it had to do with a guy named Yadier Molina, but it wasn't just that either. They were able to develop players and get them to the major leagues and just continue this winning edge because they had great analytics and information from Jeff Lunell and his analysts. And they did have the human element in terms of like I also identified players who would play the game smart, play it tough, players you could count on, players who could play multiple positions, that they look for some very human qualities. And you should never forget the human element. And that's Tony La Russa's big thing. He likes analytics. He just thinks you can go overboard and not view players as human beings. And you can't treat them all the same. So if I had a beef with analytics, it's that. But it's a very minor and very mild beef because you can't go so crazy with it that you lose the human element. And I don't think the Cardinals have done it. And this is what we talked about with Matt Pauley today, and I'm doing it again, second time in one day. The irony of people that really think analytics is the root of all evil, and that's the reason why the Cardinals have gone downhill. All due respect, it's actually the exact opposite of that. Because when they were way ahead of the curve and ahead of most major league organizations, and they were the envy of a lot of major league organizations because they were so far ahead of most teams in analytics, and they were finding pitchers all the time in the draft. And well, how do they do? We didn't see that in these guys. Well, that's the Luno stuff, the analytics stuff, to identify attributes that maybe others miss, and analytics help you do that. So when the Cardinals were very strong and forward thinking and way ahead of the curve, Bill DeWitt, way ahead of the curve in analytics, that's when they were at their best. And what happened? The analytics, in terms of the size of the department, the money invested, the number of really sharp people that's in your analytics department, and some of the brightest minds in baseball, and it all started to just get chipped away. It became less important. And what happened? The Cardinals, just in terms of bottom line, winning or losing, started to go down. And they still had enough star power, at least through 2022, where they could patch up holes, but they always had franchise caliber players. They had Pujols and Molina, even in 2022. Goldie and Arenado were at the top of their career peak, and they still had Wainwright in his final really good season of pitching, and they had some other players too. I'm not trying to just limit to that, but you got to have stars and you got to have players and pitchers who can carry your team. But even if you have players that are really, really good, you don't have enough of them, it isn't going to matter. And if you're not producing players that can fill roles and be really, really good, or players that come to the major leagues more prepared than what we've seen in recent years, well, it really doesn't matter if you have a superstar or two. And here I go again. It doesn't matter how much money you spend. I mean, because if you're dumb as an organization, as a baseball operation, if you're stupid, that means you're also spending stupid money. So it's all about being smart. And I know I've beaten this into the ground, but I just have to keep saying it because I'm hearing more and more about, well, they ought to keep Arenado because he'd still give them the better chance to win, even if he's got, he's gone in decline. You can't just give him away. You can't do this. A lot of people say, I don't believe in Gorman. I don't believe in this. I don't believe in that. Talking about young players. I've seen enough of Newt Barr. I've seen enough of this guy. I've seen enough of that guy. I'm tired of guys leaving here and doing better elsewhere. And there's a lot there. And there's, as I say, man, there's no absolutes here. There's some things there that are absolutely have merit. But my point is that the Cardinals got away from what they did best, which is to have superior minor league system, player development system. And that includes the teaching and the infrastructure and the money spent, facilities and technology. They got away from that, and they've paid a heavy, heavy price because now they're having to go out and like rummage through the free agent market for starting pitchers just to fill a rotation, and not buying the top starting pitchers, but just sort of like mid-market, slightly higher, like a Sonny Gray, those type of starting pitchers, because they're no longer growing their own that are going to become elite starters at the major league level. So they really got lost in the weeds. You know, they got lost in what was really important. And it's really strange that they got lost, because what they lost along the way was the thing that made them so great for so long. And I still don't understand it. And I've talked to Bill DeWitt Jr. about it, and I think he feels the same way. I think Bill DeWitt's kind of frustrated that he just wasn't alert to this the way he should have been. Like he didn't make it enough of a priority. He didn't intervene, if you will. Now, some people will say, well, no. He didn't want to spend money. And again, all due respect, let me see if I can put this without being a jerk. When the Cardinals started to go downhill as an organization, as a winning enterprise, where they this high level sustained success, it wasn't because there was a big shift in the payroll. And I really have been through this a bunch of times, right? Their average payroll under DeWitt, and even when they were fantastic, was usually somewhere between average to, somewhere between 10 and 12. They were never, there was a time early on where they were like a top 5-6 payroll, but during the sustained success, they never spent like they were crazy. They had an upper half payroll. They were just outside the top 10. Sometimes they were 12, sometimes they were 13. And I've documented all this stuff, but they never went on these wild spending sprees. That was the fundamental reason for their sustained success. They didn't. They found bargains. They read some scouting reports correctly about what someone like a Lance Berkman could do for them, and sign him to like $11 million a year contract, things like that. And there's millions of examples. So when we said, well, the Cardinals have fallen behind because they got away from this, again, the more cynical among us will say, no, this was just him wanting to save money. He wants to be cheap. Do you realize that's kind of the opposite is true? Because the way you have a smaller payroll but still win and win and win and win is because your minor league system is healthy and thriving and prospering and funneling good talent to the majors all the time on a consistent basis. And they can't become free agents until after 6 seasons of service time. That's how you keep your payroll down. So when you say, well, Bill DeWitt just don't want to spend money. You don't want to spend money. And that's the reason, Bernie. And okay, I'm willing to listen to that. And there are times where he should spend more money. And I'm going to get to this in a couple of minutes. There's something related to that. But if Bill DeWitt, if he really wanted to be, what's the word? Because I'm not going to call it cheap, because if you're smart, I don't care if you are cheap in the sense that the results matter. And if you're, quote, cheap because you're smarter than most teams and you draft better and develop better and you find relatively low cost, high value players on the free agent market, well, I'm not going to call you cheap. I'm going to call you smart. If you can have payroll efficiency and you can keep your payroll in check without having to rush out and throw money away on mediocre players just to put together a decent rotation, or whatever else it may be, we're trying to plug holes, and you come up with these half-measured steps because you let your minor league slide and you're not developing replacements anymore. I mean, that's the problem. If your payroll efficiency was really good, you would be having a lot of cheap, cost-controlled players playing a major role on your team and being in place for a long time until they become free agents or until you re-sign them to contracts. Again, money is like the least of this. Now, is there a case in a scenario where the Cardinals get back up and running again and they're close and there is a glaring need for someone and they need to get out of their comfort zone and spend more money? Yeah, but I have always said that. Uh, I'm just not one of these people that just says you got to spend, 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 spend. And that's that's all that some people want to talk about. And they kind of missed, all due respect, you missed the bigger picture here. If Phil DeWitt was really all about saving money and nothing else, well, then he wouldn't have let the minor leagues go to hell, right? And that was his baby. That was the thing that he built this long sustained success on for all those years. So he knows this too, and he wants to go back to the way it is. And if he can have a much better team with a more efficient payroll that isn't wasting money on idiotic signings, that would be a plus, right? Can we agree on that? I think that would be a plus. It would make some sense. So what I'm hearing this winter, I'm starting to hear more and more is like, well, I just don't understand why the Cardinals shouldn't go out and get this guy or get that guy or this guy or that guy. I understand the desire for some action and to see them take some proactive steps to like add this player, that player. I understand the feeling, but if I may politely remind everyone that would also go against what this season is all about. This season is all about, and let me just read you a quote. I think John Mozeliak gave this to Katie Wu a little while ago, a while back. In other words, if you want to keep Arenado, there's some people that I'm noticing more people are saying, well, if you got to keep him, so what? He's still a really good defender. And maybe his bat will bounce back a little bit. I'd rather keep him because he'll make them better in 2025. Okay. I don't disagree that he would still make them better in 2025. I wonder how much better given his decline, but I concede the point. Would he make them better? Yeah. But that gets away with what 2025 is supposed to be all about. And I'm all on board with what 2025 is supposed to be about, as long as they stay true to that and they're not just trying to sell us snake oil, right? Like when you talk about, well, let me read this quote to you because this one hit me again. I keep these quotes just to use them at a later date to make a point. John Mozeliak to Katie Wu, The Athletic, earlier this offseason, quote, in the past, we couldn't keep trying. We'd have to go out and address those needs. Now what we're saying is we're going to let the players go play and find out if they can make those adjustments. Let's see if they can do it for us instead of us giving up on them and now seeing that they're doing it for someone else. I totally agree that this is what needs to be done. But if you're going to remain true to what you're saying, the 2025 is about opportunities for younger players to make discoveries and to find out, can a Nolan Gorman be your third baseman going into the future? Where does Thomas Saggese fit? Can Victor Scott become your center fielder? Can Ivan Herrera catch? And he's a good catcher defensively, except he doesn't throw very well. And I admit to a failure here. There were some numbers out there that actually brought to light just to how relatively weak his throwing arm is. Not the mechanics as far as getting up out of his position and getting rid of the ball quickly. We're talking about the actual miles per hour on his throws. And some other people that I respect, including a couple. My guy Josh Jacobs at Fansided, who writes some smart stuff. He and a couple other people who wrote some smart stuff. They actually pointed out how Ivan Herrera had miles per hour on his peak throw when it reaches its top velocity is really low. So can Gorman, can he be the third baseman that you would feel comfortable with going forward? Does Thomas Saggese have a role as a guy who can start a lot somewhere on the infield other than shortstop? Can Ivan Herrera, is there a way, they're working on a program with him, if I'm told, is a way for him to like improve his velocity on his throws? Can Victor Scott take a big step forward in 2025? And then there's some questions with pitchers. I'm just giving you some hypotheticals. Can Alec Burleson put together a full year? can he actually hit left-handers better in the majors than he did in the minors? There's a bunch of questions. I'm just giving you some examples. So based on this stated goal in 2025, it's not about being cheap. It's not being about build to wits and, oh, this is good. Oh, this is good. I don't have to pay players. No, you got to redevelop the minor leagues, and you got to put a lot of money into it. And John Mozeliak gave an estimate of what this would cost, and his estimate, from what I'm told, was on the low side, because I think Bill DeWitt, and I've reported this and said this to you before, he told Chaim Bloom, you do whatever it takes. We need to do this. Is a huge priority. You do whatever it takes. This doesn't mean that Chaim Bloom can come back and say, oh yeah, this project, the minor leagues and infrastructure and all that, Bill, it was a little higher than I thought. It's going to be about $100 million. Well, no, he doesn't have an unlimited budget, but this is not a minor drop in the bucket either. This is a pretty big deal. They got to get this part running first. When they get this part running first, then we can start arguing about how much they should spend and whether they'll be overdoing the payroll efficiency objective. Chaim Bloom comes from that kind of system. I do wonder, can he change his MO? Is he willing to, when it comes to, you got a team that's ready to win, is he going to go to DeWitt and fight to spend a lot more money than DeWitt likes to spend on top shelf free agents? I mean, if you look at Juan Soto, what he's going to sign, and some of these other guys are going to sign, are we ever going to see Bill DeWitt do that? I have my doubts, but that doesn't mean you can't win and win big. I'm talking about just having more elite players, even if they're not necessarily top of the ticket, top of the shelf players. And some would say, well, Bernie, he should be able to do that too. And you can develop the minors and you can do all this other stuff and still go out and buy players and do, well, you can do anything. I mean, I can do anything, I can have it both ways, but you make choices in life. And if you're going to set, and this is where I think the disconnect is, if you're going to have a 2025 season, and you're not going to do a complete teardown, and you're not going to say, well, listen, we think, we're going to have to rebuild. This will take 4 or 5 years. If you're not committed to that scope of a rebuild, you might be able to turn things around relatively quickly. There's no guarantees of that, but you might be able to. And I don't really want to see them going nuts spending on anything, especially with the current regime, until they get their foundation reset. And this is the year for that. So if you're going to go out, I've seen people propose trades or free agent signings or this or that, and people in my profession, and the stuff doesn't make sense. It's almost like, well, go get this guy because he's a name. Go get that guy because he's a name. In some cases, well, you go get this guy because he can help you against left-handed pitching, for example. And, when he plays, he's really, really good. I'm talking about like the White Sox center fielder, Louis Robert. Louis Robert's hurt all the time, man. He missed 59 games this past season. He's had this chronic hip problem. He missed 99 days with that in 2021. He had wrist problems, vision problems, knee injuries. Haven't we seen enough of that? The Cardinals have a guy like that. His name's Lars Nootbaar. And I'm not knocking my friends or anybody for writing it, but it's like, I think we all want action so much that we're proposing things, pitching ideas just to do it because we're restless. I get it. I'm restless too. But you don't want to go out and get the kind of player you already have. A guy that I thought maybe Houston would be a trade destination for Arenado, right? I thought, well, it'd be nice to have Chase McCormick, take a shot on him. If you could get him straight up for Arenado, the Cardinals would have to kick in some money, but maybe you could get the Astros to go along with that. And the reason being that the Cardinals have a lot of left-handed hitters in their outfield, and that's correct to say they need a right-handed bat. They need right-handed hitter because they have too many left-handed bats among their outfielders. Totally true. I won't go through it. You just write them down yourself, man. Left-handed hitters all over the place. So yeah, they do need a right-handed hitter in the outfield. That would be ideal. And Chase McCormick can play center field, although he didn't play as much there last year, and he wasn't very good there last year. He's been kind of spotty. And he hasn't played as many innings there as I thought. And then I looked a little closer, and this is me critiquing myself because I was thinking a guy like Chase McCormick would really look good even in this 2025 setup. And then there were some things, however, that once I actually do a little homework, I'm like, well, I don't, then again, I don't know. Because here's why. First of all, he's 29 years old. He's not a kid. For some reason, I thought he was a lot younger. I thought it's a guy that they could grow with, right? He's got one more arbitration year after this one, and that's 2026. He's a free agent in 2027. So he's going to make $5 million this year, and he'll probably make more than that in 2026. And I'm not saying you can't afford a $5 million, $8 million outfielder. I'm not saying that at all. But can you get someone that's can approximate his value for less than that? Do you go get him just to get him? And you can say to your fans, oh, yes, he's going to make $9 million next year. See, we're not going the cheapest route. He's 29 years old, and center field defense like up and down, right? It would be nice to have a right-handed bat in the center field situation because Ciani and Scott are both left-handed hitters. But how many left-handed pitchers, and this is another thing that I'm like, I just keep saying it over and over and over and over and over again, and it doesn't really sink in. It's probably my fault. But the Cardinals, and this goes back 3 or 4 years, I mean, the percentage of their plate appearances during a season taken against left-handed pitching is somewhere between 27, 28, 29, maybe 30%. You're going to 70. I'm going to just like round it off. You're about 70% of the time, sometimes higher than that. You're going to face right-handed pitching. Now, I know you need a right-handed bat as a platoon guy, but as a guy that you can start against lefty pitching or bring off the bench. I agree with that, but should it be Chase McCormick? Because if you're going to bring him in and he's probably going to play, you want to play him or you wouldn't have gotten him. He is fantastic against left-handed pitching. Fantastic. But again, how often would he start? I don't know. Right-handed pitching, Chase McCormick, a right-handed batter, he's got like a 30% strikeout rate in his career. And he is below average overall in terms of WRC plus. He's about a 95. 100 is average. His slugging percentage in his career against him is below 400. So I'm just saying, I'm not saying it would be ridiculous to get Chase McCormick. I'm giving the wrong impression that I'm just saying, no way, that would be dumb. It wouldn't be dumb. It's just, I'm speaking for myself. It wouldn't be what I thought it would be before I actually did some homework on it. But there would be a reason, right, why the Astros would want to get in on that or maybe move on from him. I'm just using him as an example. I'm using Louis Robert as an example. I don't want an injury-prone outfielder that can't stay on the field. They already have that. I'm sorry. They got way too much of that. Haven't we been through this enough? With guys, I don't need to remind you who they are. So here's my concern. So I think if you are going, you have said over and over again, 2025 is about a discovery, about what young players you think can be really big in your future, finding out what you need to find out about them because you're going to just let them play. Well, you have to have positions to let them play. And you can't go out and get some middle of the road free agent or trade piece that's not going to propel you forward long term. Might make you a little better in 2025, but that's not the objective here. The objective is to hit the pause button a little bit and try to get out of this mediocre path that they're on. And what do I mean by that? Let me throw this in if I can. Thank you for your patience. I have too many notes. What else is new, right? The Cardinals over the last 2 seasons have a .475 winning percentage that ranks 23rd 23rd. No, 22nd, I think. 22nd or 23rd. My bad. It's one of the other two. So that 475 winning percentage over these 2 years, you have to go all the way back to in full seasons. You have to go all the way back to 1990 and 91 to get to the point where you have a 475 winning percentage over 2 seasons. And they're both the same. In 90-91, 475 winning percentage. 2023-24, 475 winning percentage. You gotta get out of the middle there, the mediocre below average middle, because 83 wins is nice, but it still ain't going to get you anywhere. So I'm all about seeing exactly what you have and making a determination rather than having like well, we have a feeling this guy will be this way, or we do, we believe we can still do this with him. Well, let him play. Gorman's a great example. Let him play, because you add up his numbers in 22-23. There's a lot there to like. It was a disaster in 2024. That doesn't mean you give up on him. It doesn't mean you say, I've had people tell me, well, I don't want to see him at third base. I don't know if he can play there. Exactly. We don't know, right? Got to find out. That's what 2025 is all about. So I've had to retrain my mind to just realize every step of the way what 2025 is supposed to be all about. So I'm not sitting here like some of my friends are. I'm not sitting here jonesing every day about, oh, wait a minute. Well, what about if they go get this guy? What about if they go get this guy? Here's oh my gosh, I have 5 3-team deal proposals. Let me get this guy and that guy. That's not what this is going to be about. Is there a chance they can make a trade or two? Yeah, we don't even know if they're going to trade Helsley or Eric Fetty or Arenado. There's still a lot up in the air. But I don't want stopgap measures. I don't want half measures. I want to reestablish that great foundation of player development and teaching and instructing and making your own better. I want to do that. I want to see that. That's what 2025, reestablishing that. That's what this is about for me. It's the most important thing. I don't need the Cardinals to get better and win 85 games, but they're not going to do anything in the postseason. I want to get them to the point where they're close to being really, really good. And then boom, then you go out and make some big moves, and you'll be doing it under new management. You'll be doing it under Chaim Bloom. And by the way, I'm very up on Chaim Bloom, and I'm looking at the people that they've brought in already. And you better believe, well, obviously, they hired Rob Cerfolio to run the minor leagues, one of the brightest young minds in front office in the major leagues. That was a Bloom hire. And I'm telling you, let me put it this way. John Mozeliak didn't hire Matt Pierpoint to be the director of pitching, a 33-year-old phenom pitching coach who's going to put in a whole program, which the Cardinals have never had, a whole program from the major leagues on down. It's like, well, this is our philosophy. This is what we want. This is what we're looking for. This is what we think you can do. They're going to have all the analytics, all the data, all the information to back it up. This guy comes to the Cardinals as their new director of pitching from Seattle, and he was in their minor league system. He was their minor league coordinator of pitching for a while. And who had the best starting pitching ERA in the majors last year? It was the Seattle Mariners. And 2 or 3 of those guys thrived, and that's through coming through a system that at least in the the 2-3 years prior, Matt Pierpoint had put in the program. So the Cardinals, this is what I'm talking about, 2025. The Cardinals have already made 2 huge moves to get themselves up to speed and to get themselves up there with teams that are really smart and understand what you have to do to get a competitive edge and what you have to do to identify talent or to make talent better, right? These are 2 really good moves. These are 2 really smart moves. That's what I want. I don't want some mediocre outfielder or some guy that's going to be getting hurt every other week, or a guy that's just simply a platoon bat and therefore somewhat or a lot one-dimensional. I want to find out about Cardinals players that they have, whether you can trust them going forward. And let me tell you this way, 2025, this is another story, and I'm going long here, but it's a slow day and it's a good day to talk about these things in a big picture way. if they get enough no answers on some of the guys that they're going to be looking at, if Gorman's a flop again, or he can't play third base, or Sajasi is a good player to have around, probably not be a guy you should be giving 600 plate appearances to. If Jordan Walker is still lost at the plate, and lost losing his confidence, and he still has no idea what he's doing in right field, and you can't make him better. If Ivan Herrera can't, throw harder than he does, do you have to think about moving him elsewhere, doing something? What about some of these guys? Who do you dare put some of them up for trade, and then have another situation where everyone's taunting you for giving up on them too soon? This is a very pitiful, I shouldn't say pitiful year. That's not a Freudian slip, by the way. This is a very pivotal year, because I'm good with 2025 setting it aside. Unlike a lot of you all who, just want to see him add players. They're going to have to add some, but they can do it in a way that actually fits the template of what they're trying to achieve in 2025. But if they get too many no answers on a lot of these guys they want to look at, or the manager's being stubborn and he doesn't want to play Victor Scott when they need to play Victor Scott, or if the manager's being stubborn and he doesn't want to catch Ivan Herrera behind the plate, who should be there more than anybody because of his bat and because of his potential, and if he's starting to throw better, you got to play him a lot. Or is the manager going to let the veteran pitchers, influence him about what they should do? There's a lot of things that can go the wrong way with this 2025 situation. And if too many things go wrong, and I'll end it on this because I'm up to 40-minute mark. If too many things go wrong, all right, then what? Seriously, then what? Where do you go from there? See, they're hoping to get positive answers. What if they get a bunch of negative answers? Where do you go from there? Do you start talking about a full rebuild? Do you start talking about tearing the thing down? Do you start talking about, well, let's see what we can get for Walker or Gorman or Herrera, or I'm just naming names, right? Some of their younger pitchers may be disappointing. They're not what you thought they were. I don't know. Are they younger pitchers even going to get opportunities because of payroll politics under John Mozeliak? Miklasz and Matz are guaranteed jobs no matter what. There's a lot that can go wrong, but that doesn't mean you go out and buy and waste money on middle of the road, non-difference making free agents that are just kind of allow you to be respectable, but nothing more than that. There's no satisfaction in that to me. But if 2025 is going to be not what you hoped it would be, I want to know what you do after that. And do you just tell Chaim Bloom, all right, do the Cleveland thing, do the Tampa Bay thing. We got to commit to that. And it's all about as much great young talent as you can accumulate, draft and develop, and really put that on the field more than anything else, and then begin to supplement what you already have. JJ Weatherholt getting up here to the big leagues will be part of the next generation. But if this year's a disaster coming up and it didn't work out the way the Cardinals hope, I don't know what they're looking at. I don't know how deep of a rebuild that they would dive into, even though Chaim Bloom's the guy to oversee that, because all you got to do is look at Boston's farm system. They got 5 of the top 25 prospects in baseball, and Chaim Bloom's had a lot to do with that. Their farm system's in great shape. Their farm system was in horrible shape before he got to Boston. I still see people bringing up this, bringing up that. Mookie Betts. He was ordered to trade Mookie Betts, and the owner killed all his leverage because it became public. Go trade Mookie Betts. It's just I don't know. I don't want to go down that road again because I'm already rambling. But if they had to go, what I'm saying is this: if they had to go into a fuller rebuild mode, I think Bloom is the guy that has got the credentials to do that, because all you got to look at the player development in Tampa Bay and look at the player development in Cleveland. He didn't work in Cleveland, but that's not the point. It's a very similar system. Rob Cerfolio comes from that system, who's going to be a key lieutenant for Bloom down the road here. And Chaim Bloom also did what actually he was hired to do. John Henry, the owner, said, well, we need to cut and slash payroll, and I want a great farm system. I want what you all did in Tampa Bay. Well, he did it, and he got fired because he did exactly what the owner requested, because the owner decided no, he didn't like that. I want to change my mind. And now they're all going crazy. The Red Sox are trying to sign everybody this offseason. Well, that's fine. Good to you. They've got more money than just about anybody. But the point is, that's not why they brought Chaim Bloom in there. And I don't know what the point, in a way, other than they did get the farm system they wanted. So I don't know really what the point was of not spending money when the owners had the itch to spend money all along. So the owner wasn't true to what he told Chaim Bloom the plan was. He didn't remain true to that. He actually he was unfaithful to that. I think with Bill DeWitt, if we're talking about a full rebuild, if 2025 is not what they thought it would be, that at least they have a guy in place where this is his strength primarily, and we'll find out about the rest of the stuff. His strength, making trades, free agent decisions, things like that. That's later on. But what if they have to go into a full rebuild? That's the thing that interests me about the downside of 2025. But with some of you, my friends, I say this respectfully, you think the answer is either something that will never happen. Well, why can't Bill DeWitt sign Corbin Burns? Or why can't they go get this guy or go get that guy? Or why can't they add an injury-prone center fielder who's got a name? That's not the answer. And Bill DeWitt's not ready to go get Corbin Burns if he's ever going to be ready. And that's another topic for another day. There's going to be a point in time, if they get good enough, where the DeWitts are going to have to get out of their comfort zone, and they're going to have to go in the deep end of the pool and swim a little bit. I just don't have a problem with them being smart and winning a lot with a payroll that might be 12th rather than 9th. It doesn't matter to me as long as you stay within your zone where you think you can be, but you make some big purchases that'll raise your payroll for, maybe from 15th down to 10th, things like that. If you're around the top 10, you're fine. Anyway, I've talked enough. If you stayed with it, which I doubt, those of you who got to the end, thank you very much. I'm just trying to kill some time on a Friday afternoon before all the good football starts. Anyway, thank you all very much. As always, I appreciate you for hanging in there with me, and interested in your comments here under the video. We'll be back on Monday, maybe Sunday, to talk about Mizzou, but we'll be back either Sunday or Monday, for sure Monday. Thank you.